You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. The gym smelled like sweat and old leather, the kind of place where people came to work out more than to be seen. My hands ached as I peeled off the wraps, my knuckles swollen and raw from hammering the bag too long. I was running on fumes, not just physically, but in every sense. Home had stopped feeling like home. Brielle and I barely spoke, and when we did, it was through gritted teeth and too long silences. My name's Luke. I'm 38, live in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I work as a mechanic during the day. Boxing was supposed to be an outlet, a way to clear my head. Lately, it just reminded me how trapped I felt. The silence in the gym was comforting, though. The hum of the overhead lights, the occasional thud of someone hitting the heavy bag in the far corner. I was packing up my gear, towel over my neck, when I heard the gym door swing open. The creak echoed. I turned instinctively, and that's when I saw her. Brielle. She walked in wearing heels and a tight black jacket, dressed like she was heading to a wine bar, not a boxing gym. My stomach dropped. She never came here. Not once in all the years I'd trained. She didn't even like the place. Behind her was a man I instantly recognized, Dominic Valenti. He worked at one of the fancier gyms across town. One of those loud, overly tan types who treated fitness like a performance. He was laughing as they walked in, his voice low and cocky. They didn't see me. I was half in the shadows by the lockers. They moved toward the ring, chatting like they belonged here, like this was their place. Brielle brushed his arm with her fingers. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Soft, open. Her smile used to look like that when she looked at me. Dominic leaned in close, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. I stood frozen, my gym bag hanging off one shoulder, unable to move. The intimacy between them wasn't subtle. It was loud, public, almost cruel in its ease. They sat on the bench near the ring, her hand resting just a little too long on his knee. I couldn't breathe. Then Dominic stood and started walking toward me. He'd clearly spotted me. His swagger never broke stride. He came right up to me, too close, the stink of cheap cologne hitting my nose. "Guess you couldn't keep up," he said, smirking. "She's got someone who can now." My jaw tightened, fists clenched at my sides. I didn't say a word. I just stared at him. He held my gaze like it was a game to him, like he wanted me to swing. But I didn't, not yet. He turned and walked back to her like he'd won something. I stood there, stunned, my ears ringing and my chest hollow. That was the moment. Not the flirting, not the laugh, but those words. She's got someone who can now. And just like that, everything I'd been ignoring, every doubt I'd pushed down, roared up inside me like fire. Something had broken, not just in my marriage, but in me. And I had never felt that kind of fury before. I didn't wait. I walked straight over, gym bag still slung over my shoulder, fists tight enough that my knuckles cracked. Brielle was mid-laugh when she looked up and saw me. The smile dropped. "Luke," she said, blinking like she wasn't sure I was real. "What are you doing here?" "This is my gym," I said. My voice was low, but I could feel the heat behind it. Dominic raised an eyebrow. "Well, it's not like you were using the ring." I ignored him and looked at Brielle. "So, this is what it is now?" She crossed her arms and tilted her head, like I'd just asked her if the sky was blue. "Don't start, Luke. Not here." I laughed once, short and humorless. "Start? I didn't start anything. You walked in here like you owned the place, with him." Dominic leaned back against the ropes, arms spread like he was posing for a damn photo shoot. "You always this dramatic? No wonder she's bored." I turned to him, jaw tight. "You should shut your mouth." He smirked. "Or what? You'll cry on your way home in your beat-up Ford?" I didn't think. I just moved. My fist cracked into his face with a sound that snapped the whole gym silent. Dominic stumbled back into the ropes, eyes wide, blood running from his nose. "Jesus, Luke!" Brielle shouted, jumping up. Dominic groaned and clutched his face. "You broke something, you psycho!" People were coming over now. Other boxers, the gym owner, everyone watching. My hand throbbed, but I didn't care. "You brought him here," I said, staring at Brielle. "To my space, my gym. And now you're acting like I'm the problem?" "You are the problem," she shot back, stepping in close. This childish macho garbage is exactly why we're done." We're done? I repeated, my voice quieter now. You said we'd talk, that we were trying. She rolled her eyes. Trying? Luke, we haven't tried in years. You come home silent. You sleep on the edge of the bed. You're like a ghost. I felt every word land like a punch. Dominic groaned again behind her, spitting blood onto the mat. You're seriously still defending him? Brielle glanced at him, then looked back at me. At least he listens. At least he talks to me. I shook my head slowly. So, that's what this is? You found someone who talks? No, I found someone who sees me, she said, her voice sharp. You stopped seeing me a long time ago. The gym was still dead quiet, everyone watching like it was a show. No one said a word. I realized then how public this had become, how exposed I was. I gave everything I had, I said, my voice low now. Every damn thing. And it wasn't enough, she replied coldly. I'm tired of feeling invisible. I'm tired of being married to someone who's only present in the room when he's bleeding. I nodded, jaw locked. Okay. She blinked. What does that mean? It means I hear you, I said, even though my insides were caving in. Loud and clear. Dominic was sitting on the edge of the bench now, holding his arm like something was seriously wrong. Good. Brielle looked around, probably just realizing how many people had heard every word. I'm leaving, she said, grabbing her bag. I didn't ask you to stay, I muttered. She hesitated like she might say something more, but instead she turned and walked out without looking back. I stood in the middle of the gym, breathing hard, every eye on me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had nothing left to lose. Back at the apartment, everything felt too quiet, too still. I dropped my gym bag by the door and left the lights off. The bruises on my knuckles were already swelling, but it didn't matter, not compared to the noise inside my head. The confrontation kept replaying like a loop I couldn't shut off. Brielle's face, her voice, the way she said, "You stopped seeing me." The way she stood next to Dominic like they'd always belonged there, like I was the outsider. I sat down on the edge of the couch, still in my gym clothes. I didn't even bother unwrapping my hands. The apartment smelled like old laundry and the leftover takeout I hadn't thrown away. The place had stopped feeling like a home a while ago. I just hadn't let myself admit it. I stared at the wedding photo on the mantle. We looked happy. I looked like a guy who still had something to believe in. But the truth was, this didn't start tonight. The signs had been there for a long time. I just hadn't wanted to see them. The late nights where she'd come home already showered, like she'd been somewhere else before heading back. The sudden obsession with fitness classes, but never once asking if I wanted to go with her. The way she used to kiss me on the cheek like I was a roommate, not a husband. Every clue had been a thread I ignored, and now the whole thing had unraveled in front of me. I grabbed my phone and stared at the screen. I didn't want to call her, but I didn't know what else to do. My thumb hovered over her name. I wanted answers. I wanted a reason, but I knew all I'd get was silence. Or, worse, more blame. Instead, I scrolled to Evan. My brother answered on the second ring. Yo, everything good? I didn't say anything at first, just sat there with my eyes closed. Luke? She brought him to the gym, I said finally. My voice cracked more than I wanted it to. Dominic, from East Point. The trainer Evan didn't speak for a second, then, what? She walked in like she owned the place, I continued. Sat down like it was just another Tuesday. He came up to me, told me she found someone who can keep up. Jesus. I hit him, I said. Broke something in his arm, I think. A long pause. You okay? No. Evan exhaled on the other end. Want me to come over? I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. Nah, I don't want to talk. Just needed to say it out loud. He stayed quiet, then said, I'm here if you change your mind. Thanks. I hung up and tossed the phone onto the coffee table. The room felt heavier now, like the air itself was pressing down on me. I leaned back into the couch, staring at the ceiling. The reality was starting to settle in. This wasn't just a fight. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't something we'd bounce back from. This had been coming for a long time. I just hadn't had the guts to look it in the eye. And now that I had, now that I'd seen it for what it really was, I didn't even know who I was coming home to anymore. Or if I had a home at all. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling while the glow from the street lamp cut through the blinds. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Brielle laughing, Dominic smirking, his voice echoing, Guess you couldn't keep up. By morning, I wasn't tired. I was wired, angry. I needed answers, something concrete to hold on to. I couldn't just sit in the aftermath and wonder what was real and what wasn't. I needed to know how far it had gone, how long they'd been making a fool out of me. That's when I remembered her tablet. It was still in the drawer under the TV, where she always left it, gathering dust. She hadn't used it much since switching phones, but she'd never disconnected it from our shared accounts. I pulled it out and turned it on. The battery was dead. Of course. I plugged it in and paced the room, while the screen slowly came to life. When it finally lit up, the background was still a picture of the two of us from some vacation years ago. Cape Cod, maybe. I couldn't even remember. We looked like strangers now. I tapped into her messages. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe something vague, some innocent flirting, a few jokes. I was not prepared for what I found. They weren't hiding it. The messages between her and Dominic went back months. Late-night chats, inside jokes. Screenshots of my texts she'd forwarded to him, with comments like, "He's trying so hard now. It's actually kind of sad." I stopped breathing for a second. There were plans too. Reservations. Weekends I thought she'd been with her friends. A spa trip that was actually a hotel in New Haven. Jokes about me being too tired to notice. A picture of me asleep on the couch, sent with the caption, "This is what I'm working with." I sat back on the floor, the tablet in my lap, my throat burning. It wasn't just that she cheated, it was that she laughed while doing it. I opened our old message thread, hers and mine, scrolled back, my dumb little check-ins. "You okay? Want me to pick anything up? I'll be late, long shift." She responded every time, polite, flat. Like I was a coworker. Like I wasn't even in the way anymore, just there, like furniture. I picked up my phone and tried calling her, straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same. I texted, "Me. We need to talk." Delivered. No reply. I sat there staring at the screen. 1 minute, 2, 5. Nothing. I didn't know what I wanted her to say. An explanation? An apology? Some desperate attempt to fix it? But the silence told me everything. Every unread message was just another confirmation that I was the last to know. And maybe the last to matter. I dropped the tablet back into the drawer and slammed it shut. Whatever I thought this marriage was, it was already gone. Now, I just had to catch up. The text came just before sunrise. "Brielle, we need to talk." Same words I'd sent her the night before. Hers felt different, like an afterthought. Like she was already halfway out the door and just remembered she owed me a goodbye. I didn't reply. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and drove across town to where I knew she'd be. Dominic's place was easy to find. A new build with shiny gray siding and a ridiculous stone fountain out front. Everything about it screamed, "Look at me." I sat in the car for a minute, engine idling. My heart thudded like I'd just gone 10 rounds. I didn't know what I was hoping for. Closure, redemption, maybe just a chance to look her in the eyes and ask, why? I walked up to the door and knocked. No hesitation. It opened fast. She must have been waiting. She looked normal, like nothing had happened. Hair pulled back, no makeup. Wearing one of Dominic's t-shirts, the sleeves too long for her arms. Her eyes flicked up and down like she was bracing herself. "Luke," she said flatly. "Brielle." She stepped back. "You want to come in?" "Number. Say what you need to say." She hesitated. I didn't want it to come out like this. "Like what?" I asked. "Public, ugly, honest." She exhaled through her nose. "I tried to tell you. You weren't listening." I blinked. "You tried to tell me? When was that? Between the texts you sent him laughing at me, or the weekends you were with him while I thought you were with your sister?" "That's not fair," she said, folding her arms. "No, what's not fair is planning your exit with another man and calling it emotional growth." She flinched, but only for a second. "It's more complicated than that." "It's really not," I said. "You cheated, you lied, you turned me into a joke. And you stood there in that gym like I was the one who ruined everything." She looked tired now, not guilty, just done. Like she'd already packed up her part of the story and moved on. "I felt suffocated," she said quietly. "You never talked to me anymore. You came home, you ate, you showered, and you shut down. For months, maybe longer." I nodded. "And you couldn't tell me that?" I tried. "No," I said, shaking my head. "You drifted." You let the silence grow until it swallowed everything, and then you blame me for not shouting over it. She crossed her arms again. You always make it about right and wrong. It is about right and wrong. She looked at me like I didn't get it, like I still hadn't understood her grand, twisted logic. I didn't want to hurt you, but you did. I know. There was no apology, just those two words, like she was acknowledging a weather report, like I'd told her it was raining. I looked past her, into the hallway of his apartment. Everything was sleek, minimal, cold. This is what you want? I asked. This guy, this life? She didn't answer right away. Then, it's not about him. I waited. It's about me, she said, and finally feeling like myself again. I took a breath. The cold morning air stung my lungs. Then I hope it was worth it. She didn't move, didn't blink. I'm filing, I said. Soon. She nodded. Okay. And that was it. No crying. No last-minute regrets. No flash of who she used to be. Just, okay. I turned and walked down the steps. My hands were shaking by the time I reached the car. She was already gone. And maybe, deep down, she had been for a long time. I was just the last to admit it. I didn't go home. I just drove. No map, no plan. The roads blurred past, familiar landmarks sliding by like scenery in a dream. By the time I stopped, the sky was already turning pink and gold behind a bank of clouds. I found myself at the lake, Silver Ridge, a quiet overlook just outside town. I used to come here years ago, before Brielle, before the house, before I started feeling like a ghost in my own life. It was still, just water and sky, and nothing else to argue with me. I parked and killed the engine, sat in silence. For the first time since it all started, I let myself feel everything, not just the anger, but the hollowness underneath it. The truth was, I didn't even know what I was mourning. Her? Us? Or the version of myself that had believed I could hold this marriage together by trying hard enough. I pulled my phone out, more out of habit than intention. And there it was. A new message from Brielle. Brielle. This isn't working. I need to move on. I stared at the screen. I must have read it a dozen times. Not because I didn't understand it, but because there was nothing to understand. No apology, no regret. Just the final push, the last door closing. I didn't respond. I didn't rage text her. I didn't send a middle finger emoji. I didn't beg for answers. I tapped on the message thread, scrolled to the top, and hit delete. Gone, no archive, no backup, no looking back. For a long time, I sat there, phone in my lap, hands numb from the cold. Somewhere across the lake, birds skimmed the water. I remembered how Brielle used to say silence made her uncomfortable. Maybe that's why she found someone louder. But I wasn't uncomfortable anymore, because I was done chasing closure, done hoping for some perfect sentence that would explain the mess. Some things don't come with closure, they just end. I leaned back in the seat and stared out at the still, dark water. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like breaking something. I didn't feel like shouting or hitting a wall. I just felt tired, honest tired. But under all that weariness, there was something else, something small but solid. Clarity. She wasn't coming back, and I didn't want her to. Not anymore. Whatever this next part of my life was going to be, it was mine now. I didn't have to be the man holding on. I could be the one letting go. When I got home, the place felt colder than I remembered. Not in temperature, just in presence. Like it had been emptied out without anyone touching a thing. Brielle's coat still hung on the hook by the door. Her gym bag was half zipped in the corner, the one she never took to the gym with me. There was a bobby pin on the kitchen counter, a half-used candle on the windowsill, the framed photo from Cape Cod still crooked on the wall. I stood there for a long minute, just looking. Then I walked to the closet and pulled out a box, medium size, just enough room for what she left behind. I started with the bathroom, drawer after drawer, her makeup bag, her face cream I wasn't supposed to touch, 2 bottles of the same shampoo. All of it went into the box. I moved on to the bedroom. Her side of the dresser still had things in it. Scarves, earrings, a bottle of perfume that still smelled like her when I opened it. I shut it fast, tossed it in without thinking. The closet came last. Her clothes still hung neat and organized, like she might walk in any second to grab a jacket. I stared at them. That part of me, the old part, waiting to feel sad. But I didn't. Not the way I thought I would. Every item I folded felt like a step forward. Every empty hanger was a space I hadn't seen in months. Every little thing I packed away was a piece of her I no longer had to carry. When I pulled down the box on the top shelf, something fell out. Our honeymoon photo album. I caught it midair. The front cover had a photo of us on the beach, wind in our faces, arms wrapped around each other like we were unbreakable. I sat on the edge of the bed and flipped through it. Smiles, wine, sand in our hair, inside jokes written in captions. I stared at one picture for a long time, me carrying her through a tide pool, both of us laughing, her head thrown back like she hadn't a care in the world. It nearly broke me, but I closed the book, put it in the box, and taped the lid shut. I carried the box to the door and set it down. I didn't know if she'd ever come for it. Part of me didn't care. It could sit there for a week or a year. It was out of my room, out of my bed, out of me. I stood in the middle of the apartment, taking it all in. Her toothbrush was gone, the fridge was emptier, my side of the closet looked wider. It wasn't fixed, not by a long shot, but it was mine again, and for now, that was enough. The next afternoon, I found myself at Riverside Park, sitting on a weathered bench beneath the same elm tree I used to visit back when I needed space. Back when life felt heavy, but not this heavy. The breeze stirred the leaves gently overhead. Kids played in the distance. Dogs barked. Someone jogged past with earbuds in. The world kept moving, like it didn't care that mine had just collapsed. And honestly, that helped. For once, I didn't feel numb. I wasn't angry. I wasn't lost. I was just here. I pulled out my phone and stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. I'd thought about this moment 100 times since the gym, since the silence, since that knock on the door that never came. And I scrolled through my contacts and found the name. Tom Bennett, attorney. He was an old friend. We'd gone fishing once years ago. He helped with my will back when Brielle and I bought the condo. Always professional, always blunt. I hit call, 2 rings, and he picked up. Luke? Hey, Tom, you got a minute? For you, always. What's up? I swallowed, felt the decision settle into my bones. I need to file for divorce. He was quiet for a second. All right, he said finally. No questions. No sympathy, just steady. You want to come in or start the paperwork online? I'll come in, I said. I need this to be done right. Okay, tomorrow morning work? Yeah, thanks. We hung up. I sat there a moment longer, phone still in my hand, screen black. That was it. 1 call, 3 sentences, but it felt like cutting the final rope off a sinking ship. I looked around the park again, really looked. A dad was tossing a frisbee to his kid. A couple walked by, holding hands and laughing at something small. Life went on. Mine would too. It wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about ending the part of me that thought waiting around would somehow bring her back. That if I just held on tight enough, we'd fix it. That she'd wake up one morning and remember who we used to be. She wasn't going to. She made her choice. And now, I'd made mine. I stood up and stretched, joints cracking from too many nights spent on the couch. My feet felt heavy, but grounded. Firm, no more waiting, no more hoping. This was the line in the sand. And for the first time in months, I felt like I was standing on the right side of it. The next morning, I woke early. No alarm, no reason. Just a calm, quiet awareness that today was different. The box was still by the door. Brielle's things packed neatly, taped shut, untouched since I'd left it there. I stared at it for a second, then bent down, lifted it in both arms, and walked it outside. Behind the building, the dumpster sat half open, sagging under the weight of forgotten furniture and broken cardboard. I stood there for a moment, holding the box like it weighed more than it should have. Then I dropped it in. Not gently, not carefully, just done. I turned around and walked away without looking back. Inside, the apartment felt lighter, still quiet, still a little empty, but not in a painful way. Like it had taken a breath of fresh air. I opened the windows, let the morning breeze in. Then I made coffee, real coffee, not the microwave-warmed sludge I'd been drinking for the past week. I took the mug to the kitchen table and opened my laptop. The gym's website was 2 months out of date. I hadn't updated my training schedule since spring. I fixed the hours, posted a note about personal coaching slots opening again, and replied to 3 messages from guys asking about sparring. It felt good. mundane, but mine. After that, I pulled out the old paint samples from the closet. Brielle and I had picked them out months ago and never agreed on anything. I always wanted a deep gray for the living room. She thought it would be too dark. Today, I chose it. I taped a swatch to the wall, stood back, and smiled. It looked good, clean, strong. Around noon, I took a walk through the neighborhood. No destination, just movement. It was quiet, a little warm, and for once I felt like I could breathe all the way in. No weight, no dread, just one step after the other. When I got back, I stood in front of the fridge for a second, then grabbed a sticky note and a pen from the drawer. I wrote one sentence, all caps, and stuck it dead center. Trust yourself first. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't some deep quote from a book, but it was what I needed to remember. Not her words, not his, mine. The apartment still had echoes of the past, the indent in the couch where she used to sit, the mirror we hung together. But with every small action, every drawer cleaned, every update made, I was reclaiming this place. And more than that, I was reclaiming me. I wasn't healed, not yet, but I wasn't stuck anymore. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I was starting,